young people, it's a cliche, but often more savvy in technology. If we are going to transform the food system, we need technology. And this is where young people can really find jobs and develop the skills to go in that direction, right? So to bring solutions that combine knowledge, technology, and bring it to the local context is what we need.
Hi Anup, thank you for being here.
Nice to meet you.
So Anup, you're the World Bank's Director for Farming and Agribusiness. Can you tell us a bit more about what you're doing and how also these sectors might affect my generation?
Sure, Alice. First, let's look at the context of agribusiness and where do we operate. On the one hand, you've got climate change impacting the farming. Agribusiness generates 30% of the GHG emissions. You have agriculture using more than 75% of fresh water. So you've got a sector that is having an impact on the environment. At the same time, in several countries, it is the main employer. In some countries, it's 60 to 70%. And the food that we eat, 80% of it comes from family and smallholders. And now you look forward, by 2030, you've got to increase food production rapidly, right? And by 2050, you've got to increase it by 30%. So on the one hand, you have these challenges, and you have the opportunities. You have 1.2 billion youth coming into the job market. There are not enough jobs. Agriculture presents a lot of opportunity for that. And this is where AgriConnect comes in. Essentially, what we're looking at is changing agribusiness from subsistence to surplus. Okay. The goal is to develop an ecosystem around the farmer that helps them to be more resilient, more productive, better incomes, better connected to markets. What does that take? That takes, looking at infrastructure, looking at technology, looking at financial. So there's a lot happening around AgriConnect. We want to reach 200 million farmers as the World Bank and another 100 million with partners. So 300 million farmers we want to reach. And of course, increase food production so that we improve food security directly.
That's a very ambitious goal, I must say.
Thank you. Yes.
And I'm sure the young people and the youth can participate as well.
Absolutely. And so this is where, you see, as economies grow, there are not too many jobs on farm. And not many people want the jobs on farm, right? But there are jobs in the different aspects of the supply chain. So if you look at food processing, you look at the different services that go to the farmer, hybrid seeds that go to the farmer, technology that goes to the farmer, connecting them to markets, right? There are many jobs that can support the farmer, and that's where the opportunity is.
I see.
Alice.
Yes.
My turn to ask you a question.
Okay.
You have a lot of experience working in different international development organizations, right? Do you have any examples you can share of meaningful youth engagement activities?
I would probably say where we are right now, the World Bank Youth Summit. I used to be part of the organizing committee, and I think what is very interesting with the Youth Summit is that it's one of the only platforms in a multilateral development space that can welcome that many young people, and that is not only for young people, but is also created by young people. And I dedicated a lot of my time, a lot of hours, and I'm sure the team this year is also dedicated a lot of their time in putting this all together for thousands of young people all around the world, here in person, but also online. And I guess another one that I was part of also last year was this NATO Youth Summit. So we were 10 young people trying to give them advice and recommendation on how to better reach out to young people. And it was great because they actually listened to us. So I think it's the first step towards where we have to go of having a seat on the table. I think the next step would be to really be able to influence the policies in some ways, but it's already getting there. And I really like seeing those kind of organization opening and having these platforms for young people.
No, that'd be great to have your voice in that policy for you to be engaged in that.
Exactly, we're trying. So, Anup, can you tell me exactly what does the future of job looks like for the agricultural sector, especially for young people who are listening and watching us?
Young people, it's a cliche, but often more savvy in technology. If we are going to transform the food system, we need technology. And this is where young people can really find jobs and develop the skills to go in that direction, right? So when you look at systems that forecast when you plant, if you miss the planting window by 2 weeks, your yield can be half. So Technology is very helpful in that. Precision agriculture, right? How can you get soil data? Again, that's technology that will help you decide how much fertilizer to apply and when, right? So technology has a very important role in its different dimension. And then the various aspects of, as I mentioned, the food processing side, food safety is a big issue in many countries. Food loss, almost 30 to 40% of the food is lost, right? In the developing countries, it is when it's produced, and in the developed countries, after it reaches the supermarket shelf, right? So consumers and so there is a lot that can be done to address that, and technology can play an important role in that.
That makes sense, yeah. I'm really curious to see what it's going to look like when it's being shaped in like...
And there's so many startups in this space. We've invested in some funds that invest in these areas, and they're mostly run by young people.
Yeah.
Coming up with new innovative ideas. They challenge the existing ecosystem, and they come in with really a different perspective. And the other issue that's happening is in many of these countries, the workforce on the agriculture side is aging. So there are many opportunities that will come our way.
That makes sense. Yeah.
For you, Alice, what can we learn from your generation?
When you're just talking about the fact that there are so many startups and young people who are coming up with all those kind of ideas, I feel like young people nowadays are not waiting for opportunities to come to them anymore. If they see that it doesn't happen, they will create them themselves. So that's why you see so many young people creating their platforms, having new audiences, opening their businesses, because they don't have the choice. Because nowadays, if you graduate, the job market is kind of tough. So I would say resilience, our generation is quite known for that, but also honesty, because I think we also come at a point of like you have environmental issues, climate change. You also have lots of people are becoming more and more aware of like mental health, and they're speaking out about that as well. And I think we're also learning from the previous generations that we might not want to be burnt out, etc. And so we're learning those lessons. But I would say definitely like, resilience and being able to speak up and to be more transparent of things. And I guess organizations like the World Bank as well would learn a lot from this new generation and has to embrace that in some ways as well.
That's interesting. So the young people being the job creators rather than going out to look for a job, right?
If
entrepreneurship, because you don't have a choice.
Exactly, you don't have a choice. And I think that's the case in majorities of countries nowadays, developed or developing. I feel like they're just creating the opportunities for themselves.
Right. And dealing with uncertainty because you don't have a job.
Exactly.
Builds that resilience in the early part of life.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Good lessons.
Yeah. How do you think young people should actually prepare then for that future, and what skills matter, especially in your field?
This space has so many opportunities. I often divide in my mind between on-farm and off-farm, and people can choose a particular area of interest that they have. So I think when the young people look at the skills, it's to combine some knowledge of agriculture, so learn some of that, but bring to it solutions that you see new technology bringing in and new business models. You see, we have a way of doing things, we've done it like this. But you don't have to do it like that. And they need to be localized because the problems are different from Brazil versus Burkina Faso. So to bring solutions that combine knowledge, technology, and bring it to the local context is what we need.
Yeah, I like that.
My turn, Alice. The theme of the summit is designing jobs for the digital age. How do you see the future of work, and how can we at the World Bank Group support young professionals like yourself? So you talked about the strengths of the young professionals, but how can we support you in this journey?
Well, I mean, the theme of this year's summit is the future of work, right? And I guess, AI is accelerating a lot of that by removing all those repetitive kind of tasks that we don't have to do anymore, etc. But I think that there's also a shift within this new generation of people who are not so much defined anymore by just their job. So nowadays, young people, I feel like they also want to prioritize their family, their friends, their hobbies, and things that are outside their job as well. They don't define themselves that much with just their job. So I think this also can be applied in their career. I feel like people don't look that much anymore at the career ladder as going vertically, but it's almost as portfolio.
Horizontal.
Like, I want to do this and that. So I think the way the World Bank can really help young people is by having rotations, moving moving in between different teams. I feel like the growth is much more in horizontal nowadays than vertical.
There are many interesting things to do, so you don't have to stick with one.
Exactly. There's
Right.
just so much more. And I feel like, especially in your kind of jobs, like you see agriculture and how it affects with like, it doesn't come as just one thing. And you see it as well in the job, in the career and everything. It's not just one thing and it comes in different ways.
I definitely have to learn from that for this part of my life now.
Yeah,
to do
I
things
think-
differently.
I like that. Well, thank you so much,
No,
Anup,
thank you,
for
Alice.
your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.